What's going on, friends? Harley-Davidson has made a lot of questionable decisions over the years, and sometimes they introduce models that just aren't very well received, and for lack of a better term, they pretty much go down in flames. Love or hate the Vrod, this was a huge step for Harley-Davidson. But it's not the Vrod I'm looking at today, it's what came after the Vrod that left us all really scratching our heads. Harley-Davidson discontinued the Vrod after the 2017 model year and introduced to us the FXDR. The FXDR was, tell me it's a Vrod replacement without actually saying the words. The issue right out of the box for the FXDR was you could immediately tell this bike was lacking a lot in performance, which is exactly what it was supposed to be. The FXDR came with a 114 engine, which was maybe, I guess you could say, a big deal back then when the 107 was still pretty dominant, but at the same time, it made nowhere near the power of the stock Vrod. This was not the fire-breathing, stoplight to stoplight, drag racing monster that Harley-Davidson advertising really hyped the bike up to be. Now, it could be if you were willing to put a significant amount of money into it, but at the same time, Harley-Davidson did try some new things, and they put some trick parts on it that weren't available on any other Softail. Guys, please don't forget, if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button, and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Now, aside from the lack of power that the bike had, Harley-Davidson went for a superb handling performance machine in that aspect. Now, albeit in a Harley-Davidson kind of way. Now, Harley-Davidson did put an all-new, all-aluminum swing arm on this bike that was roughly about 15 pounds lighter than the swing arm on the standard Softails, and this also allowed them to relocate the rear shock a little bit to kind of gain a little more ground clearance for some cornering with that raked out front end and the inverted forks. Now, this is where things get a little interesting for the FXDR. Harley-Davidson decided to go with clip-on handlebars, a little strange, kind of on a bike that's more centered around drag racing, stoplight to stoplight, but at the same time they were going for handling here. Okay, we could get past that, but the issue with the clip-on handlebars were they threw you forward, it had forward controls on it, and the way the bike was set up in the seating position, you sat back on the bike, so you were having to lean forward, and it really, in my opinion, wasn't the most comfortable ride out there in the Harley-Davidson lineup. Now, not only was it not super comfortable to ride down the road, that seating position also wasn't the best for what they were going for, which was superb cornering and handling on this bike. That's just not the best seating position to do that. Now, you could argue that the Vrod did follow along those same lines, but it had some small pullback bars, a nice bucketed seat, forward controls. That bike was really comfortable riding down the road. I absolutely love them. But as far as cornering, the Vrod left a lot to be desired in that department. Now, styling on the FXDR was, we'll just say, a little different, especially out back with that rear fender and swing arm setup that they put on it. It was really hard to do anything with this bike other than what it was basically intended to do, which it really didn't even do that, because it only had the stock 114, no special cam, but you were able to go to the parts counter and dump a bunch of money into it and fold that into your loan with some Screamin Eagle performance parts if you bought the bike brand new. Now, windshields, bags, backrests, all those kinds of things with a route you might want to go with your Harley-Davidson motorcycle, this stuff just really didn't fit on the FXDR. It wasn't like the Vrod, where they had some decent looking bags and windshields. You could make a whole touring setup out of a Vrod. And not to mention the Vrod, some guys even took them and made full-on baggers out of the Vrods, and you couldn't even hardly tell it was a Vrod at first glance. Now, to Harley's credit, they did try to do some modern styling with the lighting. They got some LED turn signals on it, little different shape, little different style and design, and they even tried to incorporate that into the Softail Deluxe, which basically, you know what happened to the Softail Deluxe, the lighting and everything was pretty much short-lived, like the Softail Deluxe and the FXDR after that point. Harley-Davidson tried really hard to advertise this bike as their performance flagship. Even Vance and Hines Drag Racing took the bodywork on their bikes and turned them into, quote, FXDRs, which we all know those are custom built in the shop and had not a single Harley Part 1 on them. Guys, it's just like Harley-Davidson never learns. You can advertise it, you can throw exponential amounts of money at it, hyping it up, doing all these things, but if it's just not there, people aren't going to buy the bike. When you buy a bike that is advertised as an absolute performance machine, you expect it to be just that right out of the box without having to dump an exponential amount of money into it to make it what it's supposed to be. Now, arguably, we could do that for every Harley, but let's just say for the Vrod, for example, that was what it was supposed to be right out of the box. You could make it better, but you didn't have to dump a bunch of money in it to make it what it should be. FXDR did come with a pretty fancy high-flow intake stock, but there was no special cam in the bike. Yes, they did offer some Screamin' Eagle stage kits, which were standard for the 114 engine. They had the Screamin' Eagle exhaust and tuner for it. So Harley-Davidson did offer performance parts, but to be honest with you, being a 114, this is supposed to be the performance flagship, they should have at least put a hotter cam in it than throwing just a stock off-the-shelf 114 in it that you're going to find at any other Softail. Now, granted, being the 114, you could spend the big bucks and stab a 131 in it, or you could go the aftermarket performance route and go ahead and put an aftermarket cam in it. With the right aftermarket cam and the 114 engine, you could definitely get pretty close to the horsepower output of what the Vrod was stock. Now, I realize we're talking about two different engines here, but seemingly they really replaced the Vrod with the FXDR. It should have at least been something close to it, especially they were asking about 20 grand at the time when they were brand new. But who knows, maybe this is what Harley-Davidson was going for with the FXDR. They were maybe trying to get people that liked the Vrod, they wanted that kind of power and performance, but they wanted the Harley-Davidson sound, and maybe the logic was, hey, if we put these two together with the existing parts, maybe do a few trick things, maybe we can get some people to bite on it. Well, yeah, it didn't work. I think it's safe to say that the FXDR did not sell well, and it didn't really catch on, and when they were new, there was leftovers when the next new model year came out, and those bikes got sold at pretty deep discounts to get them moved and out the door. Now, the good news is that if you do like the FXDR, and that's something you would be interested in, there are used ones out there, and here's the good news about these used ones. They are low mileage, and they do sell for less money than other Softail models that actually have higher mileage on them. So if you're interested in one, it can actually be a really good buy on the used market. FXDR was just something different, but it really did not live up to exactly what it was advertised to be. It really wasn't as versatile as all the other Harley models out there. You could take just about any Harley-Davidson out there and make it into exactly what you want it to be. If you want it to be sporty, you want it to be a cruiser, you want it to be a tourer, that's pretty easy to do with any Harley-Davidson model, but the design and overall look of the FXDR, that made that really difficult to do and to make it look right. Do we have any FXDR riders out there watching the channel? If we do, guys, I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear if you own one, maybe you had one, what was your experience and what did you think of it? And overall, I want to hear what everybody thinks about this bike. I want some opinions on this one because it's kind of a highly controversial motorcycle with the looks and the styling and basically what it replaced. So guys, FXDR was a very interesting motorcycle. It just didn't sell well, and at the end of the day, the whole model pretty much went down in flames, and it was only with us for a few years. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, be sure to let me know. But anyhow, guys, that's all I've got for you this week. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to hit that like button, and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. But till next week, guys, you stay safe on the streets, you ride smart, dodge those cars, and I'll catch you guys back here next week with a brand new video. Thanks for watching.